Welcome to the Ag Inspo podcast, where we delve into the dynamic world of agriculture, uncovering the stories that inspire, empower, and drive change. Join hosts Rena Striegel and Rabou as they explore the journeys of farmers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who are making a difference as they navigate the critical work of transitioning their operation to the next generation. From navigating family dynamics to developing the next generation of ag leaders, we'll bring you the insights and inspiration you need to thrive in today's ever-evolving agricultural landscape. So whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just starting out, get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered as we learn from best practices and a few colossal failures on the Ag Inspo podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Ag Inspo. As usual, and I always say this, we're so excited, but today I'm actually really excited. We're going to be talking to Don Scribner with TerraClear. Ron today, if you're not watching the video, Ron's in a tractor. So Ron's doing farming things and going to participate from the field today. But we got to stand next to the TerraClear booth at the Ag Innovation Center in the Landis office building here in Des Moines. So we were able to see TerraClear when it kind of came onto the marketplace. But if you are following along on social media at all, you probably have seen TerraClear popping up very, very frequently recently with some of the new things that they're bringing to the marketplace. And I always say in ag, there were jobs that when you were a kid, they were the ones that shaped your character. One being walking beans, two being detasseling corn, and three being picking up rocks. So we are going to talk about picking up rocks today. So I'm really happy to have Don Scribner with us today from TerraClear. So Don, welcome to our program.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So I've alluded to our audience today that we are going to be talking about picking up rocks, but why don't you tell us sort of the TerraClear story? What does that really mean, and how are you solving that problem?
Yeah, no, thank you. So TerraClear was founded back in 2017. So we've been going down this journey, and to take a step back, really the idea of TerraClear and what spun this all off was just a hatred for picking rocks. Brent Fryer, founder, was out in the field with his 81-year-old dad, picking rocks by hand for days on end while tractors were auto tracking by and all this technology existed in the field. And being a mechanical engineer at heart, he was just sitting here thinking, like, why in the world is there not a better solution for managing this? Why can't we use technology? And really that kind of kicked off the inspiration for TerraClear. And we'll kind of talk through it as we go through, but really it kind of started with this idea of if we could find them simpler and then come up with a mechanical or an automated way to actually go pick and remove the rocks from fields, farmers could continue to grow, and as labor challenges exist, they could still manage this problem. And that's really what kicked it off. So today we offer both rock pickers and rock maps. So the rock picker is an attachment that just goes on skid steer, front end loaders of tractors. And then the rock map can work for anything from kids that are grounded for chores, picking rocks on their iPads, all the way up into working in our skid steers, tractors, whatever you needed to be in. So that's where we started. And now it's, bringing computer vision and all this fancy AI into really making building rock piles kind of a simple and painless process, or as painless as it could be.
Awesome. So just out of curiosity, what part of the country did TerraClear start? Like, where were these horrible fields that the founder needed to avoid?
Yeah, so we have a couple offices, but I'm located in Grangeville, Idaho, so north central Idaho. The Camas Prairie, kind of right off the backside of the hillside wheat and the Palouse, right just east of Washington.
Yep.
So there's about 6 inches of topsoil and about 100 million years of rock to keep coming up year over year. So.
And it's a completely beautiful part of the world too.
So
I've gone up there on 2 bear hunts and a mountain lion hunt. I've been successful with all of them, and love your little coffee shop down by the down by the gas station. right? So we go there every morning. So, like, yeah, I think I've been there for like the last 3 years in a row. It's a completely amazing place. There's some beautiful farm ground, but holy cow, yeah, you guys are just right off of the Palouse there. And I can imagine being at the base of the mountains where you are, that has to be an absolute endless disaster with rocks.
It's good rocky farm ground, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the crops look good when I've been there. Um, so that's an interesting thing. So, um, talk a little bit about the processes that you guys have built and how you've gotten to where you are right now.
Yeah. So when we started this idea of like kind of automating the full rock picking cycle really started with, all right, the kind of tried and true method has always been is, you run planter pass lines or get some kids and you kind of choose 60-foot swaths and drive back and forth and see whatever you can see. And, from studies and everything we look at, there's a lot of rocks that you don't see. And anyone that's pulling through the field with their tillage tool or their combine later in the year realizes there's always going to be one that they miss. So the first thing we had to do is figure out is how do we detect, when there's 100 or 500 rocks in a quarter section or something like that, how do we know where they are? So we use computer vision. Today we fly a drone over the field, use computer vision, process that, and then actually geolocate and generate a map that then you can pull up in the app. So step one is to get that map that tells you maybe the intensity of the problem, and then more importantly, like where each of those are at. It provides you with a route, really like the quickest route to get there. And then depending on the stage of the season, so, post plant, you're going to be running down rows more likely, and you're not going to be driving across your field. But earlier on in the season, fall or early spring, before you get stuff planted in the field, it's going to drive you right to them rock to rock. And that was kind of the baseline for everything we needed is once you know where they're at, how much time it's going to take, now you can decide what people, equipment, what do I send to the field to actually solve the problem? And then that really starts to open it up for, today what we offer is kind of two different products. We offer the TC100, that's just a rock picker attachment. So you could have the map and then hop in your skid steer, drive rock to rock, following either your phone or a tablet. Or we actually offer and work with third-party service providers that actually do custom rock picking. So they'll take those maps, they'll generate a rock picking service quote for you, either for a single field or multiple fields, and then you can schedule with those guys or with us, and they'll actually come out and just build your rock piles for you.
Wow. So what kind of camera is on the drone? Is it, because I would have to think it would have to detect rock below soil. So what kind of camera is it?
It's a good question. Actually, it's a question we get asked a lot. So today we only detect rocks that are visible from the sky. So it's all above ground rocks, basically 7.5 inches and larger. So if you think about it, you can be in heavy residue. You just need to see a portion of the rock, but we haven't solved the under the earth problem yet. We get asked all the time. We'll continue to look and find ways to do it, but this gets you kind of that near-term catastrophic, protection. So it's really protecting combines, shallow implements. So hopefully we're getting most of the things out of the way of row cleaners and planter row units and all the other pieces that are going through in the spring and fall.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk about just the technology. So you've got a map, but it sounds like this is not an autonomous process. This is actually, you have to have someone moving that equipment through the field to pick that up at this point, at least.
Yeah. So right now the map acquisition is, it's a manual process. Someone's flying a drone over the field and then they're taking that data, putting it through our pipeline, and it's creating the map. And then holistically, we're taking that map, going out to the field, and either one or multiple people are then using that to go point to point, pick up all the rocks, throw them into a pile, and then go on to the next field. We have tinkered and we are continuing to explore different ways to, automate that process further, both on the mapping side and also on the picking side. So we have played around with a few autonomous rock pickers that we've developed. It's a challenging task when it comes into the idea of actually physically removing the rock from the ground. Ron, if you're familiar with it at all, but you can have flat rocks, buried rocks, rocks that you need to think about coming at it from a certain angle that just take a lot of intuition, that humans can look at that rock and maybe have a judgment call the right way to do it. And we're still figuring out how to teach the AI and the autonomy how to be human smart.
Yeah. 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 So do you have a sense about like your system versus sending a pack of kids out? Do you have some sense of what your accuracy rate of using drones and rock picker over sending people into the field is?
Yeah, so we've done, just with some folks that we've worked with over the last few years, some tests where we've actually mapped the field, had them just pick it as they would normally, and then go back and map it again afterwards. So if you go on our website, you can see some examples of some of these scenarios, but we've seen anywhere up to 65% of rocks were missed when people were hand scout or visually scouting for rocks without a map. So, you know, that doesn't necessarily seems like there's still a lot that they got picked, but when you're talking about like 1,000 or 1,500 rocks in a single field, missing 65% of them leaves quite a few potential combine busters out there.
Right. Right. Yeah, I would figure it would have to because I remember the attitude that we had. I mean, we were not necessarily super diligent. We sort of felt like if we had enough rocks, we probably did a good job.
Yeah, and we do the same thing. And it's one of those funny things, right? Is you drive up there and it's like just that giddy feeling of looking for the rock, you can't see it, and all of a sudden you're over the dot with your blue dot on the app, and then you look straight down and there's this almost invisible, like standing right over it rock. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty
Yeah.
cool experience.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about just the growth of the company. So we have a guy that has an idea. So tell me how the whole company formed. Tell me where you're at today. Let's talk a little bit about company growth.
Yeah, so we started with, I'm going to get this wrong and get somebody upset, but right around 5 or 7 folks were kind of the initial group. And really that first focus was on, all right, we want to get these rocks out of the field. So there was a lot of Lego building and prototyping and pulling apart little robots to kind of figure out like what is the mechanical contraption that actually could physically remove the rocks from the field. And that over multiple iterations kind of evolved into, if you look at our website or any of our videos, what we call the TC80 or the TC100 rock picker. So basically now 3 flat paddles that sit on a hinge joint and can go down and pick out a specific rock and basically suck it through and shoot it into just a traditional rock bucket. And really the focus there was on one, it needed to be something that was fast and it could pick, really small rocks to really large rocks. And then we wanted something that could be more of a full season use. So something that if you're in, standing corn or soybeans that compared to some of the alternatives, we could actually pick in between the plants and not, pull the plants out of the ground. Or if you're in heavy residue, we weren't bringing a ton of material other than the rock into the picker. So that was really kind of the foundation of the focus of that. And then as we took that and started learning or trying to automate the rock picker, that's really where the rock map came in, and we started developing that portion of the business. So it was really the first intention was to build basically a map for an autonomous system. And what we learned is that just being in the rock picker business, that was really kind of this attachment style business. And we really are, we're trying to bring technology into some of those like subcomponents of ag to really help with labor, help with some of the pain points that exist. And so we really quickly learned as we were just showing off some of our future tech that the map just fit into every type of rock picking atmosphere. So it didn't matter if you were hand picking or using a tractor with a real picker or using one of our pickers, the value you got out of it was time savings and quality control. So and that really shifted, and that's really kind of morphed our business into focusing on how do we go from just being an attachment company to this kind of sense and prescribed company where it's really focused on, we want to build these kind of real-time quick insights that then can have prescriptive outcomes that you can use to kind of address some of the challenges on your farm. So today we do rocks. Like I mentioned earlier, we're starting to go down the path of looking at other means of image collection and map generation. So looking at some more, near future term, we're looking at some autonomous ground-based mapping systems. And then with that comes faster processing speeds, turn time, which means as we're going through the field and we have other actions we want to do, we could generate really high quality resolution imagery, generate a prescription, and then give you a couple hours later tools to actually go put that into a different implement. So One of the next ones we're going to be working on is just looking at what can we see around weed detection, weed management, and all those different aspects kind of in combination with the rocks. So taking kind of that core of, fast image processing and autonomous kind of image gathering, and then taking it for rocks, weeds, and then continuing to look and see where our customers are asking us to go next.
Yeah,
that
that's
was one of
awesome.
my questions for you, actually, is because you have the mapping system for the rock and because you can identify that, did you have something, or do you have something in place to manage things like noxious weeds, that seem to grow in a patch, and you can identify those and easily be able to go out and manage those? I think that, between those two things, those are things that we're constantly trying to manage as farmers all the time. And how do we simplify that? Because when you just go drive around in a buggy looking for rocks or looking for noxious weed patches, it really sucks a lot of time. And so, have you gotten into the weed management part yet, or is that just something that's in the preliminary stages and is just being discussed at the moment?
Yeah, so we're currently in the stage, we're in our model development stage. So we've been building out the models, setting up our pipeline, and we'll start doing field trials this upcoming spring. And really kind of our focus was kind of a few of those is obviously locating and detecting them, so they tell you where they're at to know what to go do about it. But we also wanted to look at it and make sure that this chassis is, one, it's productive enough so that when you do want to know something about a field, it makes sense and you're willing to actually go put it in there and wait for those insights to come. So that means it's got to be pretty productive. It's got to be really quick from a processing standpoint. But the other piece we really like about this kind of decoupled image collection, prescription generator is, what I also want to know is, after I've tried to manage those, how well was my management practice? Do I see them stunted or killed as I go back? As I go multiple years down the road, am I seeing growth of resistance? And how can I start kind of layering insights with current insights with, past knowledge to really start understanding like the full weed management practice, as maybe I incorporate different tillages or crops or maybe cover crops. And that we kind of want to play in that space of really bringing those insights into more of a full farm management, in addition to just a quick, I want to detect it and go spray it one time.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I mean, it seems to be kind of there's a lot of people trying to bring solutions to ag that I think we've needed for a long time, because like you said, even something as simple as rocks. I mean, I'm guilty of it today. I started planting on a new place, and my guy running the tractor and the field cultivator in front of me was just going through areas. We don't have a lot of rocks, but going through some areas where there's some pretty big rocks, and we have these really heavy packer wheels on this drill, and it just destroys them. And I said, you've got to remember to please stop, get out of your cultivator, grab those rocks, carry them to the edge of the field so we can come by and get them at a later date, because I can't stop the planter in the middle of the field. And so just simple things like that. I mean, that's the way we've always done it. So, I'm guilty of, not changing my own format or looking into other options, because I'm used to doing things a certain way. So when we're in an environment like we are in ag right now, where margins are really tough, what are you learning from your clients, from your customers, about, are they willing to spend the money that it costs to get the mapping system, to invest in some tools to mitigate this problem, or is that an expense that they're going to cut because of the circumstances in the marketplace right now? What have you guys seen with that? And if you have seen it, I mean, obviously you're diversifying outside of that, but are there some solutions that can be presented to farmers that, give them a direct economic impact? And have you guys, I mean, do you run those models when you get together with people?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And obviously this year, it's definitely top of mind as people are thinking about fall or spring, rock management season, which I guess people never even thought or used that term before. I don't know if they do yet, but we're trying to create it, right? But one of the biggest things we've had is just really focusing in on like that ROI. And like, so there's kind of two different conversations. The customers we've worked with over the last few years, that one's probably a little bit different because now we have the data to show, either I reduced my entire labor or I spent, 2 weeks less rock picking and I know exactly how many rocks I got. And then I got the problem rocks out of my field. So they're able to start tying that back where our maps are at a price per acre cost right now. So they're looking at that and saying, for this amount of money, I was able to, spend a week and a half. I sent one guy to the field instead of 3 guys at the field like I did last year. I know exactly what I got. I know the ones that I left in the field. So for those, I think it's really just being able to tie it back to is I manage risk and I manage labor and time. Mm-hmm. For the new folks, it's really kind of getting them to see that data somehow without yet experiencing it. So a lot of what we're seeing for some of the newer customers is maybe just trying it on a couple fields or maybe looking at, where they're rotating crops and they know a field has like certain fields have a rockier problem than others. And they're trying it out on those first. The thing we've seen that's kind of interesting is like you mentioned, like not having a lot of rocks necessarily in a field. That's been even probably the better one for us is when you have 20 or 30 rocks in the field that before you would have, spent an hour or two to go drive back and forth. Now I can grab the app, spend 15 minutes, drive out, pick up 20 rocks in the gator and be out of that field and know that I'm safe. And I think just knowing that there is or isn't rocks is a pretty big value prop now as we talk to customers going forward.
Yeah.
But
well, I know in your area, around us, they don't get really big, although there are places where they do. But in your area, obviously that's a big problem. And I can only imagine the size of some of these that you have to deal with. The vast majority of your customers, I mean, is this a nationwide issue that everyone is faced with? Or is it seem to be more regionally based?
Yeah, so right now, so we're predominantly focused kind of in the core, like the Corn Belt. So we're Iowa, Minnesota, Dakotas, Indiana, Michigan, up into Saskatchewan and a bunch of other places in Canada, obviously out west. But, there's a great saying that there's a rock wall everywhere in the world to prove how many rocks still exist in the farm field. So it's definitely a global issue that we're seeing everywhere. We're really focused North America right now, kind of that kind of core region, but always, we talk to every time there's a video out there, we get a call from folks in Australia that are dealing with the same problem, trying to solve it the same ways as we've been. So there's definitely a lot of appetite and opportunity beyond just North America.
Interesting.
So when did you join the company? Because obviously we've advanced. We've got, your official title is Director of Product. So when did you join the company? What does Director of Product mean? And like what do you get to control other than the fact that you get to talk to cool podcast host about all the things you're doing? So just tell us, when did you join the company?
Yeah, so I'm just a little bit over 4 years ago, I started with TerraClear. And yeah, product is kind of just an awesome, fun term to get. Well, we're a startup already, so everyone gets to wear multiple hats. But really where it focuses, so we do a lot of the, just customer connection. So it's being out in the field with our sales teams and just visiting customers, picking rocks by hand, side by side with them, just kind of listening to what they do, seeing the practices, trying out all the competitive equipment, and then bringing all that insight back and then working with our engineering teams and really just kind of either evolving our current products or working on some of our future R&D products. And then, all the fun back end side, just to think about how we do pricing and how do we get all the other pieces of the business running to kind of support, like Ron was saying, is we need to make sure as we're going through these different marketing cycles, what does it look like and what products do we bring, or how do we reduce cost to make it more affordable and kind of broaden that reach to more acres across the country.
Yeah. Yeah, I am not familiar with the landscape of rock picking competition, but what does that look like? Because honestly, I mean, this may be just me being very naive and uninformed, but when I saw your company, that was actually the first time I had seen a product like that that was, there for consumer purchase. So just talk about the landscape of that right now and what does that marketplace look like for you guys?
Yeah, so it's a pretty old category. Right now, I'd break it in. There's a couple different options. So they have what we would call like a rake. So just think big wide implements that can, when you have extremely rocky fields, that will basically just consolidate rocks to a center area. And then predominantly what we see is what people would call reel pickers. So think of a big mechanical lever that's just reaching around and kind of sweeping them into a dustpan almost. And so you can either run that behind a windrow of rocks and just sit there and scoop them in, or use that to go, pick individuals. So that would be, it's a tow behind implement that would sit behind a tractor. But probably the biggest competition is kids and humans. It's still just kind of the tried and true. I mean, there's definitely plenty of reel pickers and other rock pickers in the marketplace, but the majority is just people, after work, when they're in the cultivator, when they're in the planter, stopping, picking up a rock and throwing it into a rock bucket on the front of their tractor and keep it on going. So, that's one
Probably
we
why I
always get.
didn't know. That's
We
probably
always
why I
get
didn't know
pushback
about any
that
of that. My dad
that's our
had everything he needed.
that's our number one pushback is I don't need any of these products because that's my number one punishment for my kids when they misbehave. So the parents are
Yeah,
our
my kids love it. It's their favorite job.
if they use the TC100 with the rock map, it actually may become their favorite job.
Provide a little motivation, maybe then.
Yeah, it really sounds like the innovation from you guys then is you kind of took these various ways that you could do it that still require, a lot of human touch plus human air, right? It's the human touch, human air combo. And you have now added the layer of having that mapping system, which then can take a lot of the air out of it in terms of missing things.
Yeah, I mean, really, the only other tech that was there before it was folks sitting in a tractor dropping a flag on their display when they actually saw the rock. But when you're pulling a drill or running a sprayer and focusing on all the other things going on, how many times do you drive by one and maybe miss it to the left or the right of the cab?
Pretty much every time. I can assure you of that.
So I'm assuming too that the attachments that you make for actually picking them, which I thought were really cool. I was like, hey, they just use snowmobile belts and they just make it so they just scoops them right in.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
oh
yeah, I was gonna say the snowmobile belts were just kind of we didn't know what belt to use, and we happened to find some walk behind snowblower belts, and they ended up being fantastic. They're durable. They're pretty low cost to replace. So it was just an accidental great thing.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, that is kind of a brilliant use of those types of belts. I thought that was actually really clever because they just grab them and scoop them right in and it seems like the process is very quick. And I'm assuming that the heads that you develop, they will literally go on any just standard.
Yep, it's just like every other skid steer attachment. So you can put the mounting bracket on a front end loader. It's a little bit trickier, visibility wise to see it out of a tractor, but we've had it on some bi-directional tractors. We've seen a few different unique ones, but predominantly it's going on track skid loaders or skid steers.
Very cool. Very cool.
Do you have any dealership networks that you're selling that through then?
Currently, we do not today. We do everything direct as of now.
Okay.
Yep.
So just contact you guys through your contact info on the website then.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And we do throughout the Midwest, we have local sales reps that are actually on site and talking with customers as well. But yeah, through our website, we have a contact us form and a number you can call as well.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm curious about just cost, because it's like, there's a lot of drones that are flying around. People got to come to your field. They're going to do all the mapping. You've got to buy the attachments or not. So let's just talk a little bit about pricing if you're open to that.
Yeah. So from the map standpoint, so our just kind of base price always is $3.95 an acre for US. So right now we are actually doing, we have two options. We have prepay, so you can actually pre-purchase acres to use throughout the season. And those right now are $3.15 an acre. And what is that? It's like $4.35 an acre in Canadian. So that's one option we're doing. And then in addition to that, we also have some discounts that you can get both on maps and service. So if you go in, create your account, or update your account within the TerraClear app and add enough field boundaries, so add 250 acres of boundaries or more for the next season, you can get 15% off if you do that before October 15th. So we're looking at ways to make it more appealing for kind of those early commitments on the rock maps, and then also finding a way to help on the service. The service is a little bit trickier because it completely depends on rock density, rock sizes, and where you're at in the country. But it's done on we take the map, we look at the time we're going to be in the field, figure out where we're going to dump the rocks, and kind of generate a custom quote on each one. It can vary anywhere from, in Iowa, you can be in the 8 to 12 to $15 an acre range all in. And they can get up to, $20, $25 per acre in some of the really extreme, thousands of rocks per field kind of conversation. So you get this great scale, and then it really just looks at it. Our map actually allows you to filter out rock sizes. So what we see in a lot of these really bad, densely, populated fields is folks will get rid of those really small rocks, and they'll just go out and just target, the basketball size and bigger, and just go do those. So that'll help kind of manage their costs on a field by field level as well.
Sure. Yeah.
But so that's an annual fee then?
Yep, it's an annual fee. So basically we do that map and then send quotes out to them. And then we have kind of a plethora of service providers spread throughout kind of our core marketing region. And then, we're always looking for new folks in new areas. So as we kind of get these new mapping only areas, we're also talking and meeting with potential future kind of partners to do the service providing as well.
Awesome. What do the attachments cost if you were going to buy that?
The TC100 is $28,000 for MSRP right now.
Okay. I have to ask, you mentioned Canada, and this might be a hard topic, but how has working with Canada been for your company? Have you experienced any difficulties doing that over the last year?
Nothing yet from other than just figuring out all the rules to be doing business in Canada. But no, it's been it's nice because it's a very similar market. Obviously a very rocky market. The one difference is there's some gigantic fields. So, we had to relearn how to process 1,500 or 2,000 acre fields. We weren't set up for that. We were kind of thinking Midwest focus. So, expanded our horizon on what does a traditional field size look like. So just some different scale, but at the end of the day, same crops, same problem, a little bit later in the season, but it's been a pretty good fit for us as well. So we're excited to kind of grow and continue to move around up there.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I do have some industry people that are starting to feel the pinch of some of the things that are happening. They're starting to see their costs come up, delivery times slow down, just some things like that is kind of a cause and effect. And I'm happy to hear that you guys are still going strong and are still getting up north of the border and doing business. That's great.
Yep, we will continue to go up there.
Yeah, that's good, because you're right. The fields up there are very, very big. That's great.
Canada is they're a different world when it comes to their farm sizes and field sizes.
Yes, that's for sure.
So what are you excited about? I mean, obviously the company is growing. You said earlier in the show, you actually have two office locations now. What are you excited about in terms of what you're doing and the new things you're bringing onto the marketplace?
Yeah, probably the thing I'm most excited about has been we're working a lot on this edge processing concept. So traditionally what we had done is collected a lot of data and shipped it off to a local processor. And it was just a logistically challenging. It made it for long turn times and processing times. So really what we've been focused on now is getting that, near edge compute system built. So it scales and it gets to the field and starts delivering the product right away. So that's really that critical piece that we've met and kind of understood that the market needs. So, Ron was mentioning following field cultivators and with the planter or the drill. So, there's a lot of those requests that, hey, I'm gonna field cultivate, and then within 24 or 48 hours, I'm gonna be back in there at the planter, and that's my window that I have to be able to solve my problem is. And until we get to this edge processing, that wasn't even a reality. And now that's starting to open up these new windows of opportunity that really, truly fit exactly what the customer is asking for. So that one's probably the most exciting just because it opens up or unlocks kind of all this potential around whether it's weeds or something where this time is critical to making good decisions.
Yeah, I think it's, this all of the technology that comes with being able to fly things across a field and the what those lenses can pick up in terms of what it sees that the eye cannot see. I found the whole, integration of drone technology into agriculture to be very exciting. Just simply because of what they can do in such a short amount of time. So it's very cool that you have figured out a way or are solving the problem of flying a drone, getting live time data that you literally almost can do things simultaneously. I think that's huge. That's really huge.
And it's very exciting to watch. I mean, it's really crazy when you pull up to a rock and you can't tell if it's a dirt clod or a rock, and you have to kick it to actually prove to yourself it's really a rock. So the technology's really come a long way. So that's just an exciting part to see, and it's just continuing to get faster and faster.
So you mentioned before that you're still working on the technology, or you're still trying to at least figure out how to detect rocks under the surface. I mean, is that something that's a priority for you guys? Is it something that you think is real, that if there's a rock, 6 feet under the surface and it's going to come up, or if it's, if you're tilling at 1.5 feet deep, are you going to hit it with your ripper, say, for an example? Is that something that you guys have prioritized, or is that just something that hasn't been really important to the customer base so far?
It has been something that people bring up usually kind of at the beginning because they don't know whether it's on top or not. So it's been one of those that we keep in the back of the mind. The two interesting areas really come to is I think about like during like the winter when there's snow and everything on top of the ground. Is there ever a way to know where they're at? Can we get a full season or a full year of mapping capabilities? So there's some interest to kind of always keep in mind with like what the technology is, and there's GPR, the ground penetrating radar, how you would implement it, and whether or not someone would really drive out into a field and dig a big hole to find a rock that's going to be there a few years later. That hasn't been the priority yet. There's been plenty of rocks sitting on top of the ground that we could focus on to start, so it hasn't been the number one, but it's definitely something that comes up. So we'll continue to look at it, but I think our biggest focus right now is stuff above the ground and things that you can take like immediate action towards. And that's really been kind of the main focus for us right now.
Okay. Well, it's another great innovator in the ag space that's doing amazing things to help make those of us who are farming make our lives just a little bit easier and a little bit simpler. And it does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that sometimes those of us who are in production ag can be a little bit averse to being willing to, or reluctant to be willing to adopt some of these new technologies, because I remember when we decided that we would put GPS and auto steer in our tractors, and I mean, it took someone probably a year to convince me that was necessary, because I thought that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, why in the world do I need a tractor to drive itself? I'm perfectly capable as a human being to drive a tractor. My fields are completely straight. Everything is great. I've been doing this for eons. And then you get a system and you realize that your field edges are more crooked than you could have ever imagined. Your level of exhaustion at the end of the day isn't near as extreme as it used to be, because you're not focusing the center part of your tractor about where to go at 5 miles an hour all day long. So you can begin to solve mechanical issues before they become catastrophes, because you're able to pay attention with everything that's going on behind you. So I just find that I guess I would encourage people that as they look at different innovations in agriculture, and certainly you guys are right there, that while you may say to yourself, hey, my kids are my rock pickers, we're getting along just fine. Just think of a world where you might have the opportunity to get along better than what you are right now. And I think that's really, to me, the lesson in all of this is we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know what levels of efficiency that we can improve on our own farms, because a lot of this stuff has never been available to us before. And so when you can really pay attention and you can look at some of these numbers and some of these innovative ideas about how to make your life a little bit more simple, it just makes all the sense in the world. But a lot of times we just don't know until we actually try it.
Yeah, there's plenty of other chores you can give your kids when they don't spend as much time picking rocks. So.
Right. Yep. There's plenty to do around the farm, isn't there?
So, obviously we're on a growth trajectory right now. You've come out with the basic products, you've added more things, you're looking to the future. What are the things that you are excited about? And in terms of being someone that is coming into a startup company a few years after they're off the ground, what are you seeing? Because I'd love to hear your top tips for people that are looking to expand their company, bring on maybe new talent. From your seat, what advice would you give those people?
I mean, the most important and the best one is spend time with who your customers are, understand what their problems are. And, that's one is a lot of times someone will tell you what their problem is. And until you're out there actually watching and understanding why it's a problem, you may focus on the completely wrong solution. So make sure you understand how they value, different parts of their business, whether it's their time, their labor, and really just kind of being out there, because generally it's in those just walking around or picking rocks in the side by side that you start to have conversations and find out what's actually kind of the root cause of the pain points on their and maybe it's something totally different. And the most important thing is being able to shift. So if you find out that the market's looking for something else and that's what your technology can solve, that's the way to go.
Right. What is the time that you spend between like being in the office and being out doing, just hanging out with customers and finding out what the pain points are?
As much as I can, because otherwise we're in meetings and doing emails. So I would love to be out the farm visiting people as much as I can. It kind of goes, and we do a lot of prototyping in the fall and spring. So spend a lot of time out there. Summer months typically seem to be a little bit slower, and then we kind of get into the farm show season like now. So just try to go out there, see what new companies are out there, interact with other people that we know in the space, and just get to talk to people and kind of understand how the season's going and what they're thinking about for the next year.
Really cool. That's really cool. Now, one last question, just about like, we hear this a lot with the innovative companies, like get out, talk to people, make sure you understand that the problem really is the problem and not just a problem that you've got a cool idea for. What is kind of the follow-up to that? So you've gone out, you've proved out that there is a problem, and many people have it. You've developed the product. Where is the balance between continuing to sort of service your clients and the innovation? How do you guys balance that? Because I'm assuming you're having to discuss that all the time.
Yeah, and it's even trickier. I mean, just in ag in general, right, is you only get 1 or 2 times a year to try something. So it's pretty critical that you get stuff out as early and often as you can in front of folks. And sometimes you learn with the right growers to kind of understand maybe before you get it fully baked and ready to go. So yeah, trying to get out in front of them so that they can give feedback before you've spent, a couple of years developing something. usually helps you kind of make some of those adjustments and those shifts quicker. So the fail fast mentality.
Awesome. Well, this has been awesome. Like I said, when we saw you guys in the Innovation Center, I thought, my goodness, and Ron and I sat there, we almost one whole day that we were in there, we were just talking about how innovative what you were doing was, swapping stories about picking rocks and how many kids were going to, have a much happier childhood because they would never experience rock picking. I mean, we had a great time just watching your team work that booth. And so we just appreciate so much that you came to tell us what's going on, to share where you're at, what you're working on. And for those of you listening or watching today, we will absolutely have all the contact information for Don and the team down below. We've also, I think, got some video links for you if you want to see these products in action. But of course, if you go to their website or follow them on social media, you are going to get all kinds of cool videos to watch. So we hope that you will do that and support this very cool, innovative company that has come to market. But Don, thank you again so much for your time today. We appreciate it very much, and all the best.
Yeah, thank you guys both.
Thanks, Don.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for joining us for Ag Inspo. We will see you again on our next episode with another amazing guest. Thanks so much.
You've been listening to the Ag Inspo podcast with Ron, Rabou, and Rena Striegel. Find Ag Inspo on Transition Point Business Advisors or Farm Journal's YouTube channels, as well as anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. For more information about today's guest or the resources referenced today, please see the show notes listed below. Join us next time when we will meet another inspirational leader who has taken those small steps to bring about really big change.